can get a gong next time.
Good evening. The July 16th, 2013 Parks and Rec Board is now called to order. Hi, everybody.
Hello.
Good evening.
Enjoying the heat?
Very much so.
Steamy.
A little different, isn't it? First order of business is a roll call. Mary, please.
Chairman Volkmann,
Here.
David Brush, Steve Mill,
Here.
Dan Jasica,
Here.
Charlie Kohlmeyer, Lauren Turelli,
Here.
Skoo Walker,
Here.
Will Dixon.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thanks, Mary. Again, I'd like to welcome Will Dixon, who's our student member to the board. I mentioned you last meeting, but welcome again. And if you wouldn't mind taking a minute or so and tell us a little bit about yourself.
All right, I'm Will Dixon. I am 17 years old. I am a rising senior at Lake Forest High School, and I'm very excited to be here. It's gonna be an awesome experience.
Great. Thank
Thank
you.
you
We
very
look forward
much.
to working with you.
Thank you.
Also want to mention that Alderman Mike Edelman is present tonight, and he is going to be the new liaison to the Parks and Rec Board. So welcome, Mike. Look forward to working with you. Okay, approval of the minutes from our June 18th board meeting. Do I have a motion?
I'd move to approve the minutes as proposed.
Thank you. Second.
I'll second them.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Minutes are approved. Next is an opportunity for the public to address the board on items not listed on the agenda. Do we have any public comments? Going once, going twice? Okay. Next item, we have some bid approvals from Jeff.
Thank you, Mr. President. Board members, before you now is an approval of, to award the departmental seasonal brochure printing to J.W. Swift Printing Company for the 2014 calendar year. Our brochures are our main avenue to get our information out about the products or the programs and services that we offer. It's distributed to every household. It takes months for us to develop the brochure, from content development and putting it into our class software system, and then actually goes into design. And from there, we have historically gone out to get quotes from individual printers for this. So it's a very time-consuming process, not only from content development, design, also to develop, to get these quotes. So what we did this year, we went out to bid. We followed the administrative directives as far as when we go out to bid. So we sent out to 11 different printers our bid packet. We advertised in the newspaper that we were holding a bid, and then on July 5th at 9:30 we opened the bid. We had 3 bidders. 2 of them that we were familiar with, that's J.W. Swift and Happening Brothers, and then another one, Darwell Press Inc. and J. Swift Company Incorporated came in at the lowest at $27,762. Now these are 3 brochures. That would be the winter, spring, summer camp, and then fall for 2014. So this is a budgeted item, although it will overlap 2 fiscal years. But it gives us an opportunity to make sure that we're budgeting correctly. And as you can see, we budgeted $34,000 for this, and it's coming right in just a few $1,000s less. So at this point, any questions about the bid process, the brochures, anything I can help answer?
The additional 4-page add-on, that's
yeah.
if we have a thicker book than we envision, I take it?
Yeah, thank you for mentioning that. Yeah, we did, part of the bid process, we asked, because you have to do it in 4-page increments. If we did decide to expand, we just had a lot more offerings, or we wanted to feature something in there, this does give us the ability to expand a little bit. Now the bid for the $27,762 does not include that. So I mean, if we did go, we will go up the $377 per brochure. So at the most, it's $1,500 that we would go up. But it, it's laid out right there. So
I would move to recommend approval of the awarding of the contract for the brochure printing to J.W. Swift Printing Company in the base amount of $27,762.
Thanks, Dan. Second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Point of interest, though, that would include the motion would include that dollar amount for the 4 extra pages, correct?
Correct.
Okay, thanks, Lon.
Thank
Thanks, Jeff. Chuck Myers has some bid approvals for us.
Good evening, Chairman and members of the board. I have 2 items. The first one, we're seeking approval for a 1-year contract with Guy Scopoletti Landscape for the planting of trees on our parkways, parks, and other city properties. This is for the planting only, does not include the planting material. So we are anticipating planting about 400 trees over the next year, so it would be in fall and then again in the spring. Due to EAB, which we've talked quite a bit about with Emerald Ash Borer, we plan on planting about twice as many as we normally do. So we did go out to bid for this. We received 3 bids from Scopoletti, from Grow Horticultural, and Rossboro. Guy Scopoletti was the low bid. We have used them very successfully in the past, so we were pleased with that. They came in at $38,000, and as you recall, the funding is coming from our annual tree replacement, which was bumped up this year due to EAB concerns. So we are seeking approval to enter into this contract for a year. Any questions?
My only question, Chuck, is relative to the quality of the trees. I mean, these bids are really different, and I know we've used Scopoletti in the past, but are you confident that we're going to get what we want?
Yeah, and like I said, we've used them pretty extensively. So as a matter of fact, they just planted the trees on 60. So we're very familiar with what they do, and we keep a pretty good eye on what's going on. So
They
yeah,
didn't
there
plant
was
the trees on 60 the first time we did that, right?
the recently planted trees on the corridor.
That look really
the
good.
ones that look great.
Yeah, they do look
Yeah,
great.
yeah.
Yes.
But just to be clear, this does not include the tree itself. This is just
Correct.
the labor. So I think we maintain quality control on the.
On the tree,
yeah.
yes. And we will still do the purchasing ourselves, and they just plan it for us.
Okay, thanks for that
It's worked out well.
clarification. I did not have
Yeah,
that.
sorry, I thought that was clear.
Just the bidding is based on, size of trees, so I assume
Correct.
the request for proposal included like X number of 1 to 2 inches, X number of 3 to 4 inches?
Well, this is how, when we sent it out, this is how we request it. This is how they typically do it. Most of the companies give you those ranges. We are only dealing with the 2.1 to 3, actually. So that's the category where you see 95. That's our typical planting. We don't do a lot
Okay.
at 1 to 2 or higher.
So it's 400 at $95 a piece. That's
Right,
where you came
that
up with
equals
it.
38,000,
Okay,
exactly.
I understand.
Chuck, there's a lot of activity in town with removals and plantings and chipping, and are we seeing any signs that these contractors are reaching capacity?
Not yet. We haven't had any issues as we're calling. We're still feeling pretty good about it, but we are watching that. We're concerned that it will start to be overwhelming for them as well, but not yet,
Not yet, okay.
no.
Are any of these guys involved in the removal?
Any of these companies?
Yeah.
No,
No.
no.
Any other questions? I have a motion to pass.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
It's approved.
All right, thank you. The second item is for the holiday lights. This is something that we go out to bid for every couple years. So we are seeking approval to enter a 2-year contract with McFarland, Douglas and Companies for the installation of holiday lights. And that's in the Central Business District downtown, and then also over Waukegan and Everett Road, over near Settler Square, the berm there. So as you're probably aware, well, maybe not, but the holiday program, Forestry Department has been doing that for a long time. And the first year, which is this coming year, is a complete installation of new lights. We tore off all the other ones. They're all gone. They're all removed from the trees every couple of years. So now we're going into bare trees. They're putting up brand new lights. So the first year of the contract is much higher. That includes all the installation. The second year is when they come back, the lights are still up from the previous year, and they patch in if there's any problem. So we light them all up, and they replace what's needed. So we have budgeted for this. We budget for this regularly, and we went out to bid. We received 3 bids on this one as well. McFarland, Douglas and Company, the TLC Group, and Temple Displays. The first 2 were pretty close, but McFarland was the low bid, so we have selected them. We haven't used them in the past, so we did check their references, and they were very good. So we feel pretty good about this. The price was right. It was lower than what we actually budgeted. So for this year, it would be $27,000 for the initial installation. Next year would be $9,000. Next year obviously isn't budgeted yet, so we'll be budgeting that $9,000 in our regular operating funds. So we are seeking approval for this 2-year contract with McFarland, Douglas and Companies. Any questions?
Were any, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Were any of McFarland's referrals other municipal clients?
I didn't make the calls. Peter Gordon called and his staff, so I can't answer that for sure. That's typically who we go out to, though. Those are the ones, that's who does the majority of this type thing.
Okay.
So this is the first year a firm has done it, or
This
city?
firm. Oh, no, we've done this for a number of years. This is the first year McFarland has done it for us. Last year, I believe it was the TLC group, or 2 years ago was TLC. So we also, I should mention, we purchased the lights on this. It does not include the actual lights that we buy.
Mm-hmm.
This is just for their installation.
Can we buy lights that last more than 2 years?
Yeah, we could look at that. We do like to take them off the trees every 2 years anyway, just so we're not taking a chance on girdling, or, as the trees grow, the cords can cut off the fluid. So we'd like to take them off every 2 years anyway.
Chuck, I don't want to extend this conversation too long. You guys are doing a nice job being thorough and getting a lot of bids, but over a 2-year contract for $320, the incumbent is losing this deal. It doesn't. Were you unhappy with TLC?
No. I mean, from time to time this happens. We weren't unhappy, but for us, low bid was low bid,
Right.
and we have to abide by that. Unless if we would have had any concern with references whatsoever, big red flag. We would have really dug a lot deeper, but they were good, so we had no reason to go with the lower price. It's unfortunate when companies do a great job.
So there's
it's the way it works.
a city policy, I assume, that
Low
is that
bid, yeah, more than city.
That and state law.
Yeah,
state law.
yeah.
So $320 is considered material to lose a bid.
Yeah, it happens, and it's disappointing to those companies, but they know how this works, and that's how the process is.
Okay.
And-
Yeah, I'd move to recommend approval of a 2-year contract for $36,000 to McFarland for installation of the holiday lights in the central business district and over in West Waukegan and Everett.
Have a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed?
I oppose.
Okay, motion passes.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chuck. Next item is Mary to discuss the change in our meeting schedule and format.
As you recall, last month we talked about changing our meeting schedule format, and the concept that we presented and chatted about briefly at that time was going to an alternating schedule. where every other month we would have a televised meeting here with primarily our action items going to a committee of the whole structure the following month, which would allow us hopefully to have opportunities to have more in-depth conversation, as well as to have opportunity to bring people to our meetings to get into some higher level detail on some of the topics that may come forward, either for further discussion with the community or with city council, et cetera. And so last month I just wanted it to have as an informational item, and Curt and I had chatted before the meeting, but not with all of you. And so last meeting I asked everybody's thoughts and ideas on it, and you gave me some feedback. So this month I thought we would look at it as an action item, but I wanted to make sure again that you had enough time to think it through and see if you had any concerns. I should mention too that the format, as we talked about, all the meetings would be open meetings with agendas posted, open to the public. We would keep minutes for both kinds of meetings, so it would be a full public record that would be available for that. And, so we would be following those guidelines. And it wouldn't negate us having other meetings with other boards as we're invited to do so. This would be just the structure for our own particular meetings. I did put together a tentative schedule last month, which I shared with you, and it was in your packet again, which mean that, in August we would have our first committee of the whole meeting, and then going forward would be that alternating schedule. So, I just wanted to see tonight if the board wanted to approve that, and if so, then we would make adjustments to the city's website and our postings on how that would work, and I would reserve the space for us in our different locations. So, any other questions or comments on that?
Sure, I know the answer to this, Mary, but staff or none of the other board members received any feedback after the discussion last week or last month towards the change?
I did not hear anything. I don't know if other board members did. No, doesn't look like it, so.
I still think it's a good idea, Mary.
I do too.
Really good idea.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea. My only concern is I think the few meetings that we've had over there, if somebody wanted to show up and attend, it's not the most inviting atmosphere there after dark, and so I do think there ought to be either some signage or some additional illumination in the lobby area, or
Sure.
just something so that if somebody did show up, they wouldn't feel like they're not welcome.
Sure, we can definitely
Good idea.
make sure that happens. Okay, if so, then if I could just maybe have a motion to approve the new meeting format and schedule.
So moved as included in our packet from a date perspective.
Second?
A second.
Thank you, Dan.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion passes. Thanks, Mary.
You're welcome.
Now I'm going to switch spots briefly and tell you a little bit about the Environmental Collaborative.
Pretty much rudderless now. All chaos. All heck's gonna break loose, since you're not here.
Mayhem. This is a topic that Mary suggested I share with the board and those in attendance tonight, not because it's directly a Parks and Rec entity, but a lot of the work that we're going to be doing over the next couple of years will directly impact our facilities and our parks and our open space and our ravines, et cetera. Plus, Chuck and I have been spending quite a bit of time with this collaborative, so we thought it was pretty appropriate to share what we're doing and ask for your participation and help as you feel appropriate. But let me begin with a little background. We in Lake Forest have a long history of environmental stewardship going all the way back to 1861 when we were founded. And the founding fathers and mothers of Lake Forest established that motto that's written in Latin up there, which I'm not about to try to pronounce, but it means love of nature and science, or love of nature and learning. So that was our original motto as a community. If you fast forward to last year when we developed our citywide strategic plan, there's an entire chapter focused just on environmental stewardship. I don't know if you had a chance to look at it yet, but it's got objectives related to promoting education and sustainable policies and practices, to preserve and protect the environment, expand recycling, and to encourage energy efficiency. So that's an explicit part of our strategic plan going forward. Then last month, Mayor Schoenheider signed the Sierra Club Cool Cities Agreement, Cool Cities Sustainability Agreement, which is a follow-up to a prior agreement that was signed in 2007. And that agreement also expresses our commitment to greenhouse gas emission reductions, energy efficiency, water conservation, local food production, recycling and composting, and alternative transportation. So between the strategic plan and this commitment via the Cool City Sustainability Agreement, we as a city are saying this is important to us, and we're serious about focusing on this going forward. What was missing was an organizational entity that could drive this, prioritize the various initiatives, engage the community, engage the public, and make this happen. And that led to the establishment of this group called the Lake Forest Collaborative for Environmental Leadership. And basic purpose, and I'll explain more a bit about our objectives, but the basic idea here is that this is the group that together is going to bring the objectives of the strategic plan and the Cool Cities Agreement to fulfillment. That's the idea. So who's in the collaborative? Well, we have representatives from these institutions in the city. Chuck and I are representing the city of Lake Forest. We've got 2 faculty members from Lake Forest College, 2 representatives from our high school district, 2 representatives from District 67, and 2 from Lake Forest Open Lands Association. So each of these groups has appointed a primary representative and a secondary representative. We signed the Memorandum of Understanding earlier this year. It was a rather interesting process to get everybody to agree to the wording, but we got there, thanks to Chuck's help. It was executed, I want to say, in the February timeframe, and we had our first meeting in March. And spent some time thinking about what we wanted to do as a group. And we're driven largely by the statement of purpose and the objectives that were outlined in the MOU. And I'm not going to read this whole thing. You've had a chance to look at it. I'm just going to highlight a couple phrases in here. And this says that our collaborative will help educate and coordinate environmental action. We're going to assist the community in identifying issues and new programs that encourage environmental thinking and action. And we're going to work closely with the city's key institutions to define conservation and environmental goals and identify and enact programs that positively influence behavior, promote citizen involvement, and awareness. So we take from this as a group these themes of awareness and engagement. And that's really our focus as we think about what we want to do as a collaborative. We want to raise awareness across the community of these issues and opportunities, and we want to engage the residents in various programs and solutions. So as outlined in the MOU, our specific goals are shown here. Again, I'm not going to drain this all, but I'll read them quickly. Promote awareness. Again, there's that word awareness on a broad range of things, including water quality, ravine degradation, invasive species, air quality, tree disease and pest threats, and reduction of waste. Develop and promote awareness of community-wide projects and programs aimed at improving the environment and quality of life. Engage, again, a network of resident volunteers to take action. And assist the city in the development of environmental standards, ordinances, policies as appropriate, all about promoting educational awareness of environmental practices in our community. So again, awareness and engagement are the big themes. So I mentioned we met in March-ish and put our heads together and said there's a lot of things we could do as a collaborative, a lot of things that each of these organizations already had in play. What could we do that's somewhat unique, that's somewhat supportive of everything else that's going on? And we came up with 3 initiatives. The first one you've heard a lot about already, we've talked a lot about already, and it's related to the regreening of Lake Forest, or the replanting of the tree species post-emerald ash borer. Again, as a board, we've talked about this a lot. The collaborative is working very closely with Chuck and Peter and the entire forestry staff and Mary to complement what they're doing for city trees with the trees that are on private property. So roughly 85 to 90% of the trees in the city are on private property. And we want to make sure our residents and homeowners have information to make good decisions about treatment versus replacement. We want to make sure that they have good information about replacing trees, ideally with native species, but a diverse population such that we're best prepared for that next wave of pests and diseases that may come. So regreening Lake Forest, engaging the students at the college, engaging the students at the schools is all part of a plan that we're going to start to roll out over the next couple years. The second initiative is in the early stages of planning and seeking funding for a kind of a showcase ravine restoration and education project. We just recently submitted a grant to the Illinois Coastal Management Program to fund a project that would be focused on Seminary Ravine. And Seminary Ravine is the one at the south end of Forest Park. If you're in the south parking lot, there's actually a little path that very few people know about that goes to the edge of the ravine. There's a little picnic table that sits there. And if you drive down the ramp to the boat dock, you'll see Seminary Ravine to your right. Seminary Ravine actually goes all the way up to Lake Forest College and beyond. And we picked that ravine for a couple reasons. One, it's got a lot of city property to it. Most of our ravines in town are on private property. So we wanted to pick a ravine where we've got the flexibility to do a restoration without getting a bunch of private support. Secondly, its location is ideal if we're going to have work underway at Forest Park already, and there's an emphasis on education and signage and explaining to people what's happening. We can tie that into that part of the park, which hasn't really been, there's some initial thinking been done about what to do with that ravine, but we really want to kind of ramp that up. And lastly, it's accessible. If you go all the way down the road and look to your right, there's actually a little path which will get you into the base of the ravine. And if you choose to do so, you can walk all the way up to Lake Forest College through that ravine, and it's actually pretty spectacular to do so. So the vision is that we'll have some signage at that top where that picnic table is today, explaining how unique and rare the ravine systems are in Lake Forest, their importance for our water quality. And as the restoration project gets underway, we'll make sure we've got participation from the schools, again, the schools and the college, and other residents that want to get involved. But it's all about, again, enhancing an awareness and understanding of the roles ravines play in our community, and encouraging private homeowners who have ravines on their property to think about things they can be doing. We should know about the funding of that probably in the late August timeframe, and we're crossing our fingers we'll get that thing launched. And the last project is one that we've been spending most of our time on in the last couple months, and it's developing an education series that we're calling Where Does It Come From, Where Does It Go? And this is intended to, again, raise awareness and understanding of kind of the hidden pieces of infrastructure and hidden resources in the city that most people really don't think about. Eventually, we're going to tackle energy and solid waste, recycling, packaging, all that kind of stuff. But our current focus is on water. And the debut of our this series focused on water is actually this Thursday night, 7 o'clock at the Gorton Community Center. And we're going to talk about water. Where does it come from and where does it go? We're going to talk about our fresh water supply and how it's treated before it goes to our taps. We're going to talk about what happens when it's flushed and where does it end up. We're going to talk about our stormwater and where does it end up. We're going to talk about why we have occasional beach closures. We're going to talk about why we currently have water restrictions and what that means. We're going to talk about the infrastructure itself that supports our water system that, again, most people probably really don't think about, but it's critically important. So if you're interested in any of that stuff and want to learn more about our water system and things that you can do to help preserve the quality and quantity of water in our community, please join us Thursday night, 7 o'clock at Gorton Community Center. It's from 7 to 8:30. And lastly, I'll just encourage anybody here, anybody watching at home, any of the board members that may want to get involved in the collaborative. We absolutely welcome your support and your participation. Please reach out to me or any of the other steering committee members that are listed here. Again, Chuck Myers from the city is actively participating. John Centel from Open Lands Association is participating. Glenn is the professor of environmental studies at college. Jim Sullivan is the head of the science department at the high school, and Krista McCain is a passionate parent representing District 67. So reach out to any of us, and we'd love your help. So I'm open for questions.
I have just one.
Sure.
Will this be televised at all for anybody to watch at
Thursday's
home?
session will, yes. It will be recorded, and then the plan is to play it on LFTV a couple times.
What is it gonna be on Thursday? A panel, or is there gonna be presenters? What's the format?
Good questions. This is part of the monthly community engagement series that the city council is conducting. So there have been 3 to date. There was one on native plantings, there was one on granny flats, and there was one on recycling. And they're monthly meetings hosted by an alderman, and the idea is to really share information, but also get input from the community on key questions, key issues, whatever. So with granny flats, it was, should we or should we not? With native plantings, it was, here's what they are, here's the positive impact it can have. With composting, it was more education about this is how it works and why it's a good thing. And ours will be a combination of information sharing and dialogue back. It's going to be about 30 minutes of presentation and about hopefully 45 minutes or so of discussion. We're going to talk about water pricing, for example, why ours is so cheap. We're going to talk about contaminants in the lake and what that means. There's a wide range of things we're going to talk about, and hopefully we get good turnout and good discussion.
Curt, the sort of the charter of this group is pretty educational up until a point, it seems. I guess I'm curious only, where do you guys cross over in terms of pushing for something more than that? So when you get into the solid waste, some of the neighboring communities have put restrictions on types of takeout packaging, you know, Western or, you know, California, San Francisco state. So I'm just curious, sort of where does this charter want to lead the community? Is it purely educational, or is it then want to move into more enacted policy?
Yeah, I think eventually we've touched on a couple already as we've researched the water topic, where we're starting to develop some positions that we think it's going to shape more into kind of an advocacy role, where we're going to want to sit down with city council and talk about some of these things. I'm thinking ahead to the energy education series, and we have a key decision coming up on the horizon related to the potential renewal of our 100% renewable electricity supply. And, you know, thinking through what the pricing implications are, do we or do we not want to still embrace 100% renewable? That's on the horizon, and we as an environmental collaborative will help gather data, you know, lay out the facts, and work actively with the city council to make a decision. So I think that's going to blend more into that advocacy role as you described.
Yeah, no, I think that's perfect, right?
You guys are easy.
Interesting.
It's in good
It's
hands.
great stuff, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks for sharing that.
So I'll move into my director's report then. Just a couple things I have to share tonight. I wanted to touch base on the Friends Foundation. We had our festival and fireworks, as you know, on July 4th. I think Steve Hill described it very well to me in an email and said that we were beaming afterwards. It truly was such a fun evening. I thank all of you for participating and assisting us with different roles that night at the event, and your attendance was great. We had a wonderful musician, Dennis DeYoung, performed, and I think it was one of our best musical acts that we've had. The foundation, can't say enough, it was their event. They ran it, they provided the volunteers, and they do that to benefit our department. And though we're still shaking out some of the financials and things, and that'll happen still for several more weeks yet, it was our best year financially, for the festival and fireworks. So we're excited about that, and the foundation continues to gain traction with this event. So again, I can't thank them enough. They are wrapping up. We're giving feedback on a lot of different things so we can tweak it, but I hope that all of you had an enjoyable evening there. I know I did.
It was wonderful, Mary. It's a fantastic evening.
Thanks. The next item was the golf course safety concern. I wanted to mention, just let you know, that a group from the Deer Path Golf Course did submit a petition of over 100 names asking the city to look at the safety concerns that they have entering and exiting the golf course onto Deer Path Road. It's a little bit of a challenging environment if you drive or go to visit the golf course because of the underpass. The traffic traveling eastbound are coming from an underpass environment, and so timing and getting out is a little tricky. And if you're going westbound, it's, you want to, if you're leaving, you want to go to the right, it's a little hard because the traffic that's coming westbound, there's tree and your sight line is a little bit challenged.
Plus, it curves, the road curves just a little bit there. So a few years ago, this came up, and the city's safety committee, which is made up of representatives from a variety of departments, including primarily our police department, look at these and evaluate it from a protocol for the road use, volume of traffic, any, encumbrances and those kinds of things. So they did look at it a couple years ago, and at that point, they added signs that were yellow alert signs that said caution, golfway driveway entry, so that people would have a visual cue as they were approaching the driveway. So now it's gone back to them, and they're looking at it again to see whether there's other options. Obviously, removing some of the trees may be a consideration. They are quite large, but safety is, paramount. There's options of possibly trying to do something with a turn lane. That gets into a little more costly, endeavors if you do that kind of thing along that route. So
They're not ash trees, I take it.
no, they're not. They're not, right, Chuck? So anyway, I just wanted you to have awareness of it, that review and consideration is being given by that safety committee. So in case you get questions about it, or if you're at the golf course, you might want to just kind of take a look at it yourself. If you have any suggestions or any, thoughts for us, please, pass it on to us. I know one other suggestion was maybe a blinking light type situation that would be a more visual, again, a better visual cue, or if a car was coming in and out, if that's possible. So Jim Held for the police department is the chair of that. He's also our police chief. So I'm sure he'll be getting back to us with some options. So I want you to know. The next item is just a Forest Park project update. On August 3rd, which is a Saturday, will be the groundbreaking ceremony at Forest Park at 9:30 in the morning. Invitations just recently went out, so hopefully you've all received your invitation. We invited a large number of individuals from the community from our interested party list and a variety of other lists that we have as a city, as well as the Forest Park Project Board's own list and their contacts. So that's out, and it'll be also public invites happening. Susan Banks is putting it on our website, and we'll have some signboards and things like that at the beach as well. So that's on the August 3rd, and then on August 25th, the Forest Park Project Corporation is holding their first kind of community-wide event to fundraise, and that's going to be called Forest Park Family Fun Fest. It is the Sunday right before school starts, so hopefully everybody's back in town, and it's going to be from 11 to 1 at the park. And they'll be getting out, again, a lot more details on that shortly, but I just wanted to let you guys know that from a perspective of your calendars, and hopefully, you can attend that as well.
Mary, remind
yeah.
us what we're breaking ground on the 3rd. Is this just the road work?
We're breaking ground on what's called the infrastructure work, which is the roadway. It's the storm sewer, sanitation, any of the utilities work that's there, the lighting, and then the south parking lot work. So the goal is to start it in the fall, hopefully right after Labor Day, and then wrap that work up before spring, before winter, and then it would sit there till spring, and then spring would be when they would come in and do more of the landscaping and what we'll call, some of the other enhancements, which is like the bluff walk and that kind of thing.
So it will include the pedestrian path on the east side of the park?
It will not in the fall. That would be
Okay.
a Phase 2 project. It will just be the roadway component at this point and the parking lot as far as the roads.
Okay.
Yeah. So their fundraising is up and going, as you know, as well, and they're doing well with that. Couple things coming up immediately for us this
Mary,
month. Oh,
I
sorry.
just wanted to make the comment that I know the tree work to carve out the vistas was done quite a while ago during the winter. But as the trees have leafed out, obviously they're fully leafed out now. The framing of those vistas is now obvious, and I want to say I think it's spectacular. I think it's absolutely spectacular. The planning on that, whoever did it, did a wonderful job. It is really neat to see. And coming down Spring Street toward the lake, you have this beautiful view of blue that you never used to see before. So kudos to you, Chuck, and the team there. Great stuff.
I was thinking the same thing. In the springtime, it didn't look so good, but now it really does look good. So.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I'll make sure the Forest Park Project Board hears that as well. They'll appreciate that. They were, you know, obviously instrumental in helping shape those vistas. And Cliff Miller in particular was great on the Forest Park Project Board with leading that with Craig Bergman. So great team down there. So anyway, in July, a couple things. This coming Tuesday on the 23rd, we've been invited to play, we do this annually, the NSSRA Gator softball team. It's always a terrifically fun evening to interact with our special need adults on the Gator softball. We're going to be playing at Waveland Park at 6:30. So I will be getting that out to you shortly. We will be joined by a few staff from the Lake Bluff Park District as well. And then the Gators always invite athletes from Northwestern University's team, and they come out as well. So it really is a fun evening. I know we had an alderman here a while back, Stu Widman, and he came one year, and it was nice for me when he retired off the council. It was one of the things he said to me was one of those highlights that he remembered was his time playing with that night with all of us. So, so you're all welcome, and I'll be getting information out. I'd love to have you join us if you can that night. It's not a late, you know, you can come and stay as long as you want, or just cheer if you don't play. So I'm a horrible softball player, but I try and I cheer if nothing else. But it's nice just to be a part of it. So that's the Tuesday night. And then on the 25th of, which is the Thursday night, is our routine. Every Thursday night we have concerts in the square. And this last week, from what I've been told, we had a fabulous group there, and it was a packed house. But this, on the 25th, I wanted to mention, because not only do we have the concert, but it's a combination with the auto show at the square. So it's going to be a really special night. A lot of activity in the square that Joe Mobile manages for us. And then on the 26th, which is on the Friday, we have two events happening. We have our member event for Deer Path Golf Course members. It's kind of a member appreciation activities there. So there's a whole host of things that day that we're doing to for those who've taken out annual season passes at the golf course. We'll have some special things. And then on that same day is our North Shore Cup, which is a racing competition, which will be at the lakefront, and teams come in from all over to compete, and that's an annual event for us as well. So it'll be a beautiful day, hopefully, at the lakefront with a lot of sailboats out. And so hopefully you can catch both of those events. And then the last thing is, it's not too late to sign up to run in the Lake Forest Day Run or Walk. That's going to be on Lake Forest Day, which is August 7th. So registration is happening now. That's a 7 a.m. run. We always do it on Lake Forest Day. It's a very long-standing tradition, and of course followed up by that as the parade and other Lake Forest activities at West Park. So that's what I have for upcoming events and programs. And the only other thing I have under other is the park board probably remembers that we have as one of our capital projects Triangle Park, resurfacing the path at that park. The board, when we did our capital, asked us to increase the price a little bit to give us some flexibility to look at options for that path. And we are looking at that currently. As a matter of fact, when we started some discussion related to that, we were contacted by Lake Forest Historic Preservation about because that park is a very, very old park as well, and what our thoughts were with that. And so what I did in June was I invited representatives from the college, because they are very heavy users of the path to and from, and we did modify our snow program a couple years ago to make sure that path was kept open, as an example. We had a representative come from the library, and then we had a couple residents that were nearby, and had the Historic Preservation Foundation was there. So we tried to, get just some thoughts on the table as to what they were thinking might be historical, or, what would be the best, mix of things and uses. So we haven't nailed that down yet, but Chuck's working on that for me right now. And because of the timing, I'd like to get that out to the park board so you can have an opportunity to also give us some feedback, because I know there was some different thoughts and ideas when we had brought it to you before, so that we can hopefully move this forward in timing with some of our other city construction that's going on, and take advantage of some of the pricing that Public Works gets for some of that. So right now we're looking at an asphalt path, like a concrete sidewalk, concrete sidewalk with an aggregate type surface. You might envision that as you go up to the library, there's an aggregate kind of surface on that. We've looked at a stamped, we've looked at just doing a path similar to what they're gonna do at the Bluff Walk at Forest Park, which is more of the crushed limestone, and it's not it's not a solid surface, it's a, soft surface. Am I missing any, Chuck?
The other one was concrete lined with pavers.
Okay, so concrete with a paver edge. So we're looking at all those different kinds of options and getting some prices together for that. We have 40,000 in our budget. To be honest, very few of those options fall in the $40,000 range. And so that's part of the conundrum. For as long as anybody could remember at the small group that I had together, and most of them have been in the community for a very long time, nobody could remember the path anything but asphalt. We have one picture that we have in our files. Now they're looking to see if there's others. It used to be back in the early 1900s, it was flagstone. It was irregular chunk rock, flagstone, which today would be very difficult to meet our needs with plowing, ADA, and some of those things. So we'll be sharing some more information. It's in the works. I just wanted you to know it was in the works and that you'll be receiving some information on that soon. So, and that concludes my report for tonight. Any questions from you?
Thanks, Mary. Any questions for Mary? Any other comments by board members? May I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Meeting is adjourned. Thank you.